Yorgos Lamprinos, you're nominated for an Oscar for editing the film The Father, about a man suffering from dementia. First off, what did you think of this story and the editing challenges it posed when the opportunity to work on this film came to you? Because the editing is such an important part of the effect of the film.
Yeah, it was. I mean, from reading the script, which was really intense, and it's not every day that you get a script. To me, at least, it was that intense that I had to stop midway and gather myself a little bit before moving on. So I knew that on paper the basis was really, really good because of Florian Zeller's work and the adaptation they did with Christopher Hampton. Then I knew that Anthony Hopkins was involved with the film, so that was a second wave of big motivation because he's a legend. Then I had a meeting with Florian that went really great. So I was really happy eager to have a collaboration with him, which was also motivating. And then when I started working on the film, it was I keep saying that it was an editor's bliss, because on one part, I had amazing performances to work with from Anthony Hopkins and Olivia Colman, Olivia Williams, Imogen Poots, Mark Gatiss, and Rufus Sewell. And then also, there's a real use of the set design, of the production design in the film that is challenging as an editor, because it kind of gives you hints of how to use space. And since space and time in editing is essential, it's also a film where time is no time, a space is no space. So that was extremely interesting intellectually to me as an editor. So it had a lot of components that made it a really, really, really interesting film to work on. And also I'm really proud of being part of the film because of the story that it tells, because it's a story that concerns us all in a way. And another part of the editing challenge was to be able to, Anthony is obviously the main character because everything happens in his head. But we had to find the balance between all the characters. So as an audience member, your empathy can shift along the story, because you can take and you can understand Anthony's point of view. You can understand how his daughter Anne lives the situation, the man she's with, how he lives the situation. So it's a film that needs you to be active as an audience member, which I think it's really important. And also it puts you just inside the mind and a situation, and it's up to you to think, to reflect how it affects your own life without giving you lessons, which I think it's really a really important part of filmmaking also.
And how difficult was it to maintain that balance for like creating that sense of disorientation, because we are really getting into Anthony Hopkins' mindset, but also carrying the audience through it, you know, in a way that, you know, they feel like they can follow the story?
To me, the first word that came to mind when I read the script was the word nightmare, and not nightmare in the traditional horror sense, but in the nightmare of putting the audience inside that confusion. So using, as I said, the tools that the language that Florian created during the shooting, which was the performances and also the set design, we needed to find a balance when we can have the audience be as confused as Anthony, but never go too far to not to lose them. Because you can, even as an editor, you can think that you can be a bit trickier and more stylistic and fall in the trap of losing the audience. And I knew from the start that this wasn't about making a flashy editing. This was a project about emotion. So everything I did was to be able to get the most emotion out of each scene as it was supposed to be inside the story.
And what was the collaboration process with Florian Zeller, who is a first-time director, and he's adapting his own play, so obviously he has a very intimate understanding of this material. So what was that partnership like?
Exactly. As you said, exactly that. He was very intimate with the story. So my role was not to be there telling him how to tell his story. My part was to be able to transform what he has in his head into the screen, and also to be able to, because it also has to do with my inner rhythm, to pace the story in the way I thought was fitting for the audience and for him. So it was a really it was a collaboration, because sorry, I had to I could trust him completely, because he knew very well the story he was going to tell. So my part was mainly to be able to transform it in a cinematic way.
And you mentioned, of course, Anthony Hopkins' performance is so central to the film, and there's so much that's going on in his face, in his eyes, in his reactions. Was that a really great kind of resource to use as an editor, to have so much from him as an actor?
It's an absolute bliss, because it kind of, as I said before, as an editor, you have your internal rhythm, but you also take rhythm from the way a scene is shot, and also from the performances. So performances like the one Anthony Hopkins did in this film, that I think is simply amazing. And also Olivia Colman, that completely blew my mind as an actress, gives you the space to be able to I mean, you can keep a length in a shot, and then realize that after a certain time, something else is happening completely different in the face of the actor. So you need to take advantage of those things, and also as an editor, find the equilibrium, so that you don't put the focus only on one part. As I said earlier, that you need to find the balance to make everybody exist, which is really important, because it goes to the sense of the story.
And you mentioned how the sets also kind of help to give the film the sense of physical space, and like the changing physical space as his mindset changes. Like how much did that, because that's part of like what's giving us the sense of disorientation. So what was it like sort of using that physical space to generate
it was great, because there are times where where you watch the film and you have the impression that you're going forward, but there's an action. For example, Anne that puts a grocery sack in the kitchen, that actually puts you backwards in time. So you move in two timelines at the same time, which is really, really interesting. So the way you do your shot selection from the angle point of view, where will you use a wide shot because you need to show something specific from the set, or you go to a close-up because you don't want the audience to see a specific part of the set. It's a kind of a compass that we used during the editing to be able to go through the story.
And how much did you already know about dementia as an illness? And how much did you learn through the process of making this film?
I'm lucky enough not to have a direct family member that suffers from dementia, but I'm from Greek origin and I live in France, and I don't go back to Greece a lot. And around the time that I would begin to work on this film, I visited my father, and it was the first time he kind of felt a bit older in my eyes, because you always have that image of your father from the childhood, that he's always young. And it was just before beginning this film that it was the first time I felt he reached a certain age, and that really affected me, especially in the beginning. I had a couple of weeks during the first period of editing where I was by myself, because I was editing while they were shooting in London. I was in Paris. So I had a couple of weeks that emotionally kind of took a hold of me. But as an editor, you cannot let yourself go into that too much. So I had to block that out and be able to to get the feeling of the film. And as we keep saying, since the whole point of the film is to put you inside Anthony's head, I got a pretty good idea of what that feeling is like. And also the effect it has not only on the person that is suffering, but also his family and close ones, which is really important in those cases. And I was really happy because there've been many people that after watching the film reached out and complimented the work, but also complimented the fact that the film had an impact on them, and that's why we do this. So it was very, very gratifying in the end.
And with the film having such a kind of non-linear structure back and forth through time, was it a more complicated or time-consuming editing process compared to other films you've made?
No, because that's when having for a first film a master in my eyes, being Florian, for a first-time director, he really was on top of his game. So that part of the collaboration, the collaboration made it easier in that part because he was so intimate with the story. But as an editor, again, it's those type of things that gives you the pleasure of doing this work. So it was really, really interesting, and intellectually and emotionally.
And of course, the film nominated for 6 Oscars overall, including your nomination for editing, and it's been getting such positive reaction from critics and awards groups. What has it been like to get that kind of recognition throughout the season, and seeing the whole film, in addition to your work, be recognized the way it has?
It's amazing because it goes both ways. It's really gratifying to me to be recognized by my peers because I have a lot of respect for them, and when you get the respect back from your work, it's super gratifying and gives you strength to move on. I don't think it's something that puts you at ease. I think it's something that even motivates you to go even further. So that it's really important for us because it's a difficult job being a film editor, and making movies is super difficult. So you need that. It's important to have those kind of push from time to time. And also, as I said, it was really important to me the fact that people that I didn't know at all somehow managed to get my email and contact me and talk to me about the film. So it really is super gratifying.
And what interested you in editing, in the first place, as sort of your entry into filmmaking and your contribution to that art form?
My first love in life was music, and I was young. When I was around 14, I played the trumpet, and then I moved into electric bass. And one day I went into an editing room, and I felt like I was in my living room. I was about 18 or 19 at the time, and I felt a strong connection between the role of a bass player in a band and an editor in a film, and the feeling was really, really strong. So that day I decided that was what I was going to do in my life, and that's what I ended up doing. And I give a lot of time and energy into this. But I've been doing this for more than 20 years now, and it's something that you can never master, really. So I always have the same passion for it, and it's really something that helped me even grow as a human being, because it can teach you how to get distance from things. It can teach you how to deal with your anxiety and your stress, because it's a very stressful work. It can teach you how to be part of a team, because you're part of the team. You rarely work alone, and how to deal with egos, with other people. And also it teaches you to be, as an editor, you need to be very confident in yourself, because it gives you freedom to make choices and take risks. And also you need to have your ego completely in check, because you're there to serve the film. The director you work with, but mostly the film, because sometimes you need to protect the film from the director. It can happen. So it's a super complex art for me, that I'm really that really gives me a lot of. I take a lot back because I put my soul into it when I work.
I want to congratulate you on the film and your Oscar nomination for it. And thank you so much for talking to me about it. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. It was a great pleasure, Daniel. Thank you, Daniel.